Hi, I'm Brian,
I'm Janet.
and we are Distinctive. So we like to do Disney videos as a bunch of Disney nerds that we are.
Two.
Yeah, bunch of nerds. And we are a dual income, no kids. So our videos are all from the perspective of going to Disney World as adults without children. So we like to open up each episode with what we call our magic word of the day, which today's magic word is hotel. So every time you hear the word hotel, take your refreshing adult beverage of choice and salute.
That is your cue to have a little bit of magic.
So we like to start each episode with a game. Today's game is going to be our keep, update, or tear down. So we're going to pick one Walt Disney World resort theme park. Theme park. Theme park.
One park from Disney World.
Yes. And we're going to give each 3 rides, and we're going to explain why we want to keep it, update it, and how, or tear it down.
Me first.
All right. So what's the park going to be?
All right. We're going to pick the Magic Kingdom Classic.
Okay.
And let's see here. So
Disney World.
The Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Keep, update, or tear down Peter Pan, Splash Mountain, or the Tiki Room.
I mean, I gotta go. Definitely keep on Splash Mountain. It's my favorite ride at Magic Kingdom for certain. It's definitely, I think, the best themed ride.
Everyone's a little bit racist.
Yeah. I mean, there's a little racist overtones that they've been slowly removing from it, but yeah, the theming is just phenomenal. It really does immerse you in, and it does tell a story. You get a complete beginning, middle, and end.
It's true.
And it corresponds to the thrill that you're about to partake on. So definitely keep Splash Mountain. I mean, I can't tear down Peter Pan because it has such a close.
You can't tear down Peter
Pan.
I
know, meaning to me in my heart as a child. So absolutely have to update it.
How do you update Peter Pan? It's a classic.
I know. I'm not going to overhaul it completely. So you're going through, the scene where you're flying over London in your ship, and you see the little model below you, but you're flying through the air, and there's nothing really you're interacting with while you're flying. What I would do is some 3D projection technology, and while your ship goes through that space, you're interacting with those projections, and I think it would add to
projections of what?
Projections of fairies. I mean, I think that would be number one. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they give you they sprinkle pixie dust on you. You see it falling on your head. That kind of thing.
Okay, that could be cute, I guess.
And then tear down Tiki Room. I know the song we keep. But it's just tear it down and build a tiki bar and keep the song.
What about the birds?
I mean, the birds really I don't think they
do click.
They clicky. Yeah, I mean, get rid of it. All right. So you really gave me a tough one there.
That was tough.
So I'm gonna do.
I'm scared now.
You're
gave
scared.
You a tough one. So
I'm gonna change it up on you.
You're gonna make me murder Tinkerbell or something.
No, I'm gonna change it up on you. I'm going to do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I'm gonna do Dumbo. And I'm gonna do Barnstormer.
That's a tough one. Mine Train, Dumbo, Barnstormer. So I'm going to update Mine Train in a way that's probably actually impossible. So I would update it to make the sway part a little better. Right now, you don't really feel that thing where you go sideways, and that's like the coolest part. Well, as far as the ride mechanism, that's the coolest part. And you don't really get it. So I would figure out a way to get that better or more. And then also I'd like it to be a little bit longer, the roller coaster part. So I really like the dark ride part, but the roller coaster part is
too short.
So you know, you need like an extra bend or something. I know it's just space, so it's actually an impossible update, but if in an ideal world we could update it, I would update it like that. Which means I've got to keep Dumbo. Dumbo's a classic. I love the classic rides. So there probably are some improvements that could be made to Dumbo, but I'm going to just keep it just the way it is. They've already fixed the queue, and that was the worst part about Dumbo before they moved it over to where it is now. So that's good. And then that means Barnstormer is a goner. Barnstormer is, he likes it, but you know, it's a kiddie coaster. It's a fun kiddie coaster, but if you want to talk about short roller coasters, have I got the coaster for you?
You just ride that on loop.
Yeah, if you like Barnstormer,
yes.
Here's a tip. Go late magic hours, and if you've seen the fireworks before, just blow off the fireworks, and they will just let you run it. You don't like the hardest part of Barnstormer is getting in and out of it because it's made for children. So once you're in, if there's no one in the queue, they'll just loop it. They don't care. Okay. We've ridden it like 4 or 5 times in a row before. You know, 11 o'clock at night. Yep. It can be fun, but for the sake of this game, I'm going to tear it down.
All right. So before we get into our main topic today, we would like to solicit some questions and any comments or feedback you may have.
Yes.
So if you can do that in the comments below, that'd be great, and we'll try and answer a couple of the questions. If you think we missed out on some, key points that you would like us to talk about, then leave it below. And
so try and, comment suggestions. We love your questions, suggestions. We love your comments too, right? But if you just want to yell at us about how we're dead wrong about Dumbo, that's cool, but there's no way to incorporate that into the next video.
So let's go on to our topic of the day, which is must-dos we don't do. Kind of contrarian, but yeah, I mean, there's these topics that you always hear in all these different vlogs and articles about Disney World of these are definitely things you must do while going to planning and doing a Walt Disney World vacation. So some of them we just don't agree with because we think they're silly. Some of them we don't do because we don't have kids and it just doesn't seem like we need to do them. So without further ado, Janet, go ahead and introduce the first topic.
The first one is definitely one of these things that is probably more for people with kids. And since we don't have kids, we don't do them, and that is rope drop. So if you don't know, rope drop is where you get to the park early so that you're there right when it opens up, and they, as I understand it, drop a literal rope, and you can go directly to a ride. And some people call it the 4th Fast Pass because you can probably get on a ride that's hard to get on, like Space Mountain or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, first thing, and therefore you don't really need a Fast Pass for it later on. We don't have kids, and I treasure my beauty sleep. So I don't get up at 6:30 in the morning on my vacation. I just straight up don't. So we don't do rope drop because most of the parks will open, 8, 8:30, something like that, depending on the day. So we're not big on getting there early. And that's partially because we stay later also. So we'll tend to get, there 9:30, 10 o'clock, but we'll stay into the evening past dinner time. So there's not a hurry, right? We have plenty of time in our day to do all the things we want to do. And if you have to wait in a 45-minute queue, it's not really that big a deal for us. So we just don't do rope drop. We don't like the crowds. We don't like getting up early. It's just not for us. And since we don't have little kids who are going to wake up at the crack of dawn, whether we want to or not, then there's no reason for us to get up early.
I mean, I've heard of an hour that's called 6 in the morning.
Yeah, they've got one in the morning too.
They got one? Okay. But yeah, corollary to this is essentially, arrive early, leave early in order for the crowds. And we're just the antithesis of that. We arrive late and we stay late. As not having children, that's really the best option for you because typically we see the kids traffic, they start, especially the younger ones, they get really tired as the night wears on, especially extra magic hours for Magic Kingdom. It goes to 2. Right?
Sometimes,
yeah, sometimes. So these kids get usually pooped at 11, sometimes earlier than that. So you
can get your 4th Fast Pass at 1 in the morning.
Absolutely. There's no problem with that. So yeah, we don't do rope drop.
tip on that one though, if you're going to sleep in a little bit, make sure that you get that "I'm still napping, do not disturb" sign on your door, because the maids and other housekeepers at most of the Disney hotels and even the Disney area hotels, they know that most people get up early and go to the park right away. So if you want your beauty rest, you got to make sure that sign's out there. So otherwise they'll be knocking on your door 8:30 in the morning, because most everybody's out by then.
Absolutely. Good point there. All right, so number 2 is kind of a good transition to talking about midday hotel breaks. So this is something we see a lot of times are recommended, especially for children. Makes perfect sense. Kids are gonna get tired. They're gonna try and do everything. They run out of energy. The best thing to do is take a little break, and they need a nap. So you really need to go back to your hotel. We don't do this because it doesn't make sense. We can space out our energy appropriately, and this way we don't have to waste that time going all the way back to a hotel, which takes about an hour round trip to do.
Yeah. So we do kind of take the midday break. It gets hot. You can get tired. It helps that we don't get there right at rope drop. So, we've maybe only been there 2-3 hours come noonish or early afternoon. So yeah, we're working on a little more leisurely schedule over the course of the day than people with kids might be doing. And we don't have the exhaustion of corralling small children all day long. And then also, we will take a break, but we'll take a break in a more adult kind of way. So for example, we get on the monorail loop, head over to the Polynesian, enjoy the tiki bar, have lunch, chill out in the lobby there for a bit, that sort of thing. But not actually going all the way back to the hotel unless we happen to be staying in the Polynesian, I guess. But even then, we might not go back to the room. We'll just go and relax somewhere. Even if you're in Epcot, go watch the movie in France, spend 20 minutes in the dark in the air conditioning, and just chill out and take a little breather. So we kind of do take a break, but not in the traditional go back to the hotel and take a nap kind of way.
Absolutely. So
all right. So another one, which is kind of related to that, is we don't always stay on property. So one of these must-dos is you should stay on property, right? You get the extra magic hours, you get free transit, and you get these other benefits. You can park your car for free at the park if you happen to be staying at a Disney World resort, resort hotel. But the benefit of staying at the resort hotels is not always cracked up to be. So one of the things that we really like to do is stay at what they call the Good Neighbor hotels, those ones that are right in the Disney Springs area. There's a couple Hiltons there. I think there's a Marriott there. So these are hotels that you get a lot of those benefits. They have the extra magic hours if you're staying there. They usually have a shuttle that'll run pretty frequently, like every half an hour in the mornings and the evenings, to get you back and forth to your hotel. So again, if you're not taking that midday break, you don't necessarily have to get all the way back to your hotel. So it can be nice to have that space where maybe the hotel's a little bit more updated. It's a little less highly themed, although some of the Disney hotels are becoming less themed anyhow. So you're giving up a little bit of theming and you're giving up some of those smaller perks. We're annual pass holders, so we get free parking at the parks with that, so we don't need that perk. So we don't take advantage of the Disney resort perks as much, the on-property perks, as much as maybe someone else might do. If you're traveling from far away, you may find more value in it, but we don't find the value. We'd rather have a little larger room, a little more updated space, and we're not huge on the theming within the hotel room itself. So it's not that much of a sacrifice for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we love the Disney Springs area. So being in a Disney Springs resort hotel gives us the ability to simply just walk into Disney Springs. And we find ourselves often, doing a nightcap at Disney Springs as adults. It's getting a better place to be for adults, more adult friendly. So there are nice places to go to and drink, both outdoors and indoors.
Edison. And just hang out. The Edison has tapas till like 1 in the morning.
Yeah. So even Morimoto's is open on the weekends, the one in the morning. So there's a lot of places open late. So it's a nice place to finish your evening and then just simply walk back to your hotel. It's something you wouldn't normally do if you were staying at a Disney Resort hotel on property. That's not, what's the nearest one?
To what?
To Disney Springs, the on property.
Saratoga.
Saratoga. So if you're not staying at Saratoga or Key West, Old Key West, you're pretty much not going to go to Disney Springs after you're all day long at the park when you just took a bus directly to your hotel. You're probably not going to then come back, get on another bus, and go to Disney Springs. So there's so much to do at Disney Springs for adults that it's almost an advantage to be at a Disney Springs resort because it gives you that option that you would normally take.
Yeah, so that's kind of an intermediary, right? You have on property, which are the Disney hotels. You've got these Good Neighbor hotels, which are the Disney Springs area. You've got Swan Dolphin. We like Swan Dolphin. Don't forget about them. And then there are other hotels that are, off property. And we don't stay at those as much unless we happen to have driven our own car or have a rental car. But for the most part, if you're not staying on property, that Disney Springs area is great.
Yeah. And it's not that we don't stay on property. We do. It's just not a must do. Yes. We don't do it all the time.
All right. What's next, love?
Next one is waiting for parades. We know the must-do recommendation is get there 30 minutes before the parade starts to get a good viewing spot. That's more important with little humans. We call kids. I think they're called kids. Yes, it's important for them to have an unobstructed view. But as adults, we can see pretty clearly being taller human beings in the back. So
and we're not super tall. We're average height.
Average height. But the parade routes are usually so long that there's always going to be a spot to view at. 10 minutes before the parade starts, that's only maybe one or two person deep inside of your view. And so just strategically position yourself where you don't have someone putting their kids on their shoulders and you're good, which I think rather than spending your time, killing an extra, 20 minutes and waiting for the parade, this is a good option for you. You don't have kids.
Yeah, so the exception to this is if you have a big group that you're trying to keep together, right? So if you've got 6-8 people who are your group, maybe you're there for a bachelor party or something. I don't know why you'd be watching the parade if you're there for a bachelor party, but maybe you are. You might want to get there a little bit earlier because it can be hard to find kind of a large space, right? But if you're 2, maybe even 4 adults who don't mind being 1 or 2 rows back on the parade route and you don't have mobility issues where you need to be seated in any way, you can probably find a spot 5 to 10 minutes before the parade starts without much issue. Sometimes being in the back can even be better because like on Main Street, the shops will cast a shadow on part of the street. So if you're on that part of the street, you can kind of be underneath that shade a little bit with the trade-off that you're, a couple people back. But again, if you're taller than most of the mini humans up front, then you're good.
And you're ginger and you appreciate shade.
Yes, the gingers like the shade. Yeah. He spontaneously combusts if I leave him out in the sun too long.
I do. And one other tip, if you're going to see the Friendship Fair parade at Magic Kingdom, and one of the big floats that everybody likes seeing is the dragon float. It spews fire. But
in Disneyland, it might take your head off, so be careful. If you haven't seen that video, go Google what?
Don't Google. Don't tell me.
Don't Google.
Don't Google.
Dragon fire.
All the floats are pre-configured, pre-programmed. They do everything in synchronous timing at the location where they're supposed to. So if you want to see the fire, the dragon actually spew the fire, a good spot's right at the bend of where the train station is on that loop. That's perfect timing of where fire actually comes out. If you go a little bit before, a little bit after, you're not going to have a great view of the fire coming out. It's pretty impressive, large fireball.
Yeah, again, 2-3 rows back. Google it.
It's safer.
I'm just saying.
It's safer, just in case. All right, next one.
So next one is to tour left, or to tour right, or to tour back to front. You'll get various versions of this, right? Clockwise, counterclockwise. It kind of depends on what you're reading, what they say is the must do. But generally the idea here is, go in the opposite direction from the way that all the crowds go, and then you'll have less crowds and fewer wait times for your ride that you want to go on because you're going the opposite direction of everybody else.
Myth. So.
Exactly. So there is no opposite direction from everybody else. Everybody else on any given day is a lot of people. So you're going to have a bit of a wait, even if you go the opposite direction. Therefore, it makes more sense to just have a plan. Try and optimize your walking, right? So don't make a fast pass for something on one side of the park, and then 30 minutes after that, you have a fast pass for something on the other side of the park, because then you're going to be crossing the whole park back and forth the whole time. But within reason, right? Just pick a direction and go with that direction. You're going to be fine, right? If you have a particular ride that you're super excited to get a dang fast pass for it, and then you don't have to stress it. You know, the idea of trying to beat the crowds, and that goes with the rope drop too. Yes, rope drop can help you a little bit because the crowds haven't built up yet, and the ride has a certain rider capacity. But beyond that, you're not getting any help going away from the crowds. So just pick your direction and try and stick with that direction to the best of your ability, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So next one.
And that goes for all the parks, right? So sometimes you'll hear, oh, go right in Magic Kingdom and go left in Epcot. No, just pick one. You're fine.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter which direction you go. It's the crowds are always there and they're constant. Quick quiz. Would you prefer the prices to go up and have less crowds, or keep the prices where it's same and maintain crowd consistency?
I don't mind the crowds, actually. So the crowds, they do a good job for the most part of kind of buffering themselves, right? So you have some people who are really into one thing and some people are really into another thing, and it tends to kind of even out. So you have people everywhere, but you don't have a crush of people except at very select things, right? So like Flight of Passage pops to mind. Toy Story Land just opened, so that's another one but I mean, I heard that like on the second or third day, it was only like 40-minute wait for Slinky Dog. So, you know,
don't be crazy.
As long as, you know, and that's another reason we don't do rope drop, because that's when you're going to get the most crowds. You're going to feel the crowd in the morning because everyone is in the same place. Midday, people are spread out. Some people are at the hotel, some people are riding Space Mountain, some people are riding Splash Mountain, and it's even.
Yeah. If you don't like people,
I don't think the prices need to go up anymore. Yeah. They're just pricing people out at this point.
If you don't like people, just don't go to Disney World. It's not for you. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So next one, we have making advanced dining reservations super duper early. You can make advanced dining reservations up to 180 days in advance. And there's absolutely zero reason for you to do this other than, hey, I got this. I want to put it on Facebook and let everyone know that I got this great reservation. Except for, there's only one that I would say that is important to do really, really super duper early. And that's
Cinderella's Royal Table. But we don't have kids.
So we don't really care about Cinderella's Royal Table. And so typically what we do is, for any Walt Disney World vacation, we will pick one or two restaurants that we absolutely definitely want to do this trip because maybe we haven't done it recently or it's brand new. And we will make those reservations out, when essentially making fast passes.
Yeah, so I do most of the planning. I usually take an afternoon. I kind of pick out which parks we're going to be in on any given day based on our hotel and everything else. I kind of make out a rough schedule. I think we're going to be here in the afternoon for this day, and we're going to be there in the morning for that day. And if there's stuff that we're really interested in getting, fast passes / ADRs, I go ahead and I try and snap up what I can at that point that I'm doing the fast pass reservation. So it'll be 30 days in advance if we're not staying on property, or 60 days in advance if we are staying on property. So that is one argument for staying on property, going back to one of the previous ones. If there's fast pass reservations that you're really, really like, my vacation will be ruined if I can't get it, then that's one of the few real benefits of staying on property is you get that 60-day mark rather than 30-day. But for ADRs, I don't think I've ever had a problem eventually getting the ADR I want. So even if that dining reservation wasn't available when I first looked, if I check back 2-3 times over the lead up to our vacation, I usually can get one. Now, keep in mind, I'm being very flexible with our dining times. So because we don't have kids, because we're not set to a routine that we're trying to keep our small ones on, we can have dinner at 5:45 or 8:30. Doesn't really make any difference for us.
No.
So I can usually find a dining reservation that works within our rough schedule that we have built out. And a lot of the time you can call day of and get reservations that people cancel last minute. So that's a good tip. They won't always pop up on the app, but if you actually call the phone number, I know it's like old school to do that nowadays, but if you actually call the Disney phone number, a lot of the time they can get you dining reservations that aren't necessarily on the app.
Yeah, and that's simply for one secret reason. They actually hold a very small percentage of tables, especially for their more, higher volume restaurants, like Le Cellier, for instance, that has a lot of volume going through. They hold a certain percentage of them for not just same day, but they actually hold a smaller percentage for those higher end clientele. And those are the people that are doing like booking private tours, kind of spending lots of money, or doing the concierge floors on some of the resort properties. So they hold those up to a point. But so if you call them and they're like, oh, we really don't need this, we don't have a demand for it, they might release a table that they're holding that for you. Also going and
that's especially for like the signature dining. They'll hold those, right? So like if you're trying to get into particularly any of the ones in the resorts, even if it seems really like it would be tricky to get, I'm trying to think like Yachtsman Steakhouse, for example, it can sometimes be tricky. You can often get that day of by calling, because they'll hold it thinking, oh, maybe someone she wants to go get steak tonight, and if they don't, then they'll let you go have steak that night. The other one that you probably do want to try and do 100 days out if you can is if you want to do Victoria and Albert's. That's another one that you really have to get it early.
Absolutely. And remember that whether people actually cancel or change their reservations, I believe it's within 20 minutes after the reservation, it auto cancels on them, so that releases the table. So if you happen to either be in the app or be physically at the restaurant, there's a chance you might be able to get in as long as you're flexible.
Yeah, we've done some walk-ins before.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible. When it comes to restaurants in general, I find that timing is very important. Obviously, there's the typical dining time. If you're okay with eating early or eating late, which we typically do, usually one or the other, based off of our plan for the day, you're not going to have any problems. So there's really no reason. If you book these early, yes, you can change them, but you can't change them day of. Once they're locked in within the 24-hour window, you have to pay that, what is it, $10 or whatever?
You can.
You can.
They'll let you change them, but again, you have to call. You can't do it on the app.
It's not as easy anymore. So, I mean, you kind of lock yourself, and you probably forgot when you planned it, you let it go, and then you're there, and you're locked in, and it conflicts with the fast pass you got same day that you really want to take, and you're like, oh man, what am I going to do? That's why we don't do it. It's just better to be flexible.
Yeah, so we probably make them at least a week out if we can, but definitely not that 180 days.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this this topic of the must-dos that we don't do. And we like to sign off each episode with a quote from the man himself, Walt Disney. And today's quote is, "Laughter is timeless. Imagination has no age. Dreams are forever."
Thank you for watching. Send us questions if you have them in the comments down below. I'm Janet.
I'm Brian.
And we are distinctive.